The engine cut out, and the underground garage plunged into an echoing silence, pierced only by the eerie green glow of the emergency exit signs. I just pushed my door open when a couple, locked in a desperate, frantic kiss in a shadowy corner, caught my eye. Their movements were so aggressive it made me cringe. Just then, a figure materialized beside me. A tall, striking woman, starting to walk right toward them. On instinct, I put a hand out to stop her. Hey, they're in the middle of something. You don't want to be a buzzkill. She turned her head, a faint, cold smile touching her lips. A buzzkill? The man over there is my boyfriend. My heart skipped a beat. I squinted, trying to get a better look at the corner. The garage was dim, the green light casting ghoulish shadows. The profile of the woman pressed against the man. It looked more and more like Sarah, my girlfriend of 3 years, who was supposed to be miles away, completely unaware of my surprise visit. A chill shot on my spine. Huh, what a goddamn coincidence, I said, my voice dry as I stretched my lips into a grimace. The woman, I think she's my girlfriend. The moment the words left my mouth, the phone in my pocket, which was streaming live on Twitch, went absolutely ballistic. The chat scrolled wildly, a cascade of gleeful comments from people who live for this kind of drama. Holy shit, we're witnessing a live bust. The first streamer to catch his girl cheating live on air. This is insane. The drama of the year. The couple in the corner seemed to be getting even more into it, their lusty sounds echoing in the cavernous space. The beautiful woman's face looked even sicker under the green light. She started to storm over. I stopped her again, my voice now laced with the weary solidarity of a fellow victim. Hold on. Don't rush in. They don't deserve to get off that easy. She raised an eyebrow, her gaze sharp. I took a deep breath and held out my hand. Team up. Without a moment's hesitation, her cool fingers met mine. Chloe Vance, she said. Leo Evans, I replied. As my phone's camera silently recorded, and with our friends and a growing audience of strangers on Twitch as our witnesses, our newly formed revenge squad fanned out, a perfect pincer movement. Our target, the two ungrateful bastards in the corner. I walked straight towards Sarah. The second she saw me, pure shock washed over her pretty face. Leo, what? How are you? Before she could finish, I swung my hand and slapped her across the face with all my strength. The sharp crack echoed through the garage. Sarah's head snapped to the side. She clutched her cheek and shrieked, Leo, how dare you hit me? My answer was another, harder slap. The force of it sent her stumbling to the ground. She tried to curse me out, but I grabbed her by the collar of her shirt and delivered a rapid-fire series of slaps, her carefully maintained face quickly turning red and swollen. I'm a daughter of the Reed family. You touch me, and I'll make sure you can't survive in this city. She finally broke down, screaming threats. I gripped her chin, a cold smile on my face. The Reeds? I wasn't aware they had a daughter like you. She squinted, the green light finally allowing her to see my face clearly. Her bravado instantly vanished, replaced by a look of utter, disbelieving terror. Her voice cracked. Leo Evans. What are you doing here? Meanwhile, Chloe was being just as ruthless. The man, Mark, was already on his knees, his hair clutched in her fist, whining in pain and begging for mercy. A misunderstanding. It was all a misunderstanding. I wasn't thinking straight. Seeing Mark getting roughed up, Sarah scrambled to her feet like a madwoman and lunged at Chloe, trying to protect her new flame. The two women started wrestling, and the scene descended into total chaos. I was about to step in and help when the piercing wail of police sirens grew closer. That coward Mark had shakily called 911. Hello, police. Someone's tried to kill us in the Grand Horizon Tower parking garage. The cops arrived quickly, surveying the chaotic scene of two women fighting over one man. The lead officer rubbed his temples, his voice dripping with exhaustion. You guys again? A lover's quarrel, is it? All right, everyone's coming with me down to the station to cool off. Several pairs of gleaming silver handcuffs came out. It was 3 a.m. when I walked out of the police station. The night air was cool, thick with a lingering sense of absurdity. So what's the end of love? It's a courtroom. It's a restraining order. It's a plaintiff and a defendant. It's a clogged drain, a pressure cooker, a septic tank. It's deleting, blocking, and never speaking again. In love, you get undressed. Out of love, You get to post. In love, let's build a life together. Out of love, let's split the assets. In love, poetry and promises. Out of love, police reports and perjury. I had just ended the Twitch stream that had captured the whole messy affair when I heard a sharp slap nearby. It was Mark. His eyes were bloodshot as he stared venomously at Sarah. Fuck, I thought you were actually from the goddamn Reed family, he spat, his words spraying her face. Turns out you're just some broke wannabe. Sarah clutched her cheek, firing right back. And what are you? Some kind of prince? You're nothing but a kept man living off women. I don't care. Leo dumped me. So you have to take care of me now. Take care of you? Mark laughed, a bitter, angry sound. He jabbed a finger at her. What about the tens of thousands of my money you spent? You're going to pay that back? Or should I just report you for fraud? They went at it like fighting cocks, shoving and grabbing each other right outside the station, spewing profanities that made the officers on duty poke their heads out to watch. Watching these two scumbags tear each other apart, I felt nothing. It was almost comical. I pulled out my phone, recorded the delightful scene, and opened up the notorious confessions board in the Northwood University Student Forum. My fingers flew across the screen. Title, Straight A, Student Cheats with Millionaire Busted in Massive Romance Scam. Aftermath of the garage makeout session. I attached the freshly recorded video. After a moment's thought, I added another post below, frowny face hiring, seeking a new kitten. Base salary $3,000/week. Make me happy, get a $1,000 bonus. Resumes to email. The forum instantly exploded. The comments section was a wildfire. Holy shit. Front row seat for the tea. This billionaire dude is a legend. Billionaire, look at me. I'm great with household chores, and I bring my own loofah. Pick me, pick me. I have abs. I hit the gym 7 days a week, for exercise only. Guaranteed to make you happy. Bro, don't be so strict about gender. A bro can be a kitten too. Dude, sometimes you just think you're straight until you find the one. I watched the comments flood in, my shoulders shaking with laughter. This world was so surreal and yet so predictable. As I was enjoying the show, a force suddenly clamped onto my leg. I looked down. It was Sarah. Leo, it was all my fault. I was bewitched by that bastard. He tricked me. Please, just give me one more chance. She looked up, her swollen face contorted into a pitiful expression. A wave of intense revulsion washed over me. I yanked my leg back, flinging her away without a shred of pity. Get the hell away from me. I have an allergy to trashy women. I can't breathe when you're near. Seeing my resolve, Sarah's face twisted. She turned her fury on Mark, screeching at him to pay her back immediately. Mark, of course, refused. The two of them started brawling again right there on the steps of the police station, tearing and cursing at each other in a truly pathetic display. Soon enough, a grim-faced officer came out and dragged them both back inside like naughty children. Truly, you reap what you sow. I shook my head and walked toward my dad's Cadillac Escalade, a beast of a car he jokingly called the Throne. Just as I pulled the door open, a slightly husky female voice called out, "Hey, billionaire." It was Chloe. She was leaning against a wall, her face pale under the streetlight. Her clothes were a bit torn from the earlier fight, giving her an unexpectedly beautiful, broken look. Are you still looking for a girlfriend? I raised an eyebrow, sizing her up. 5'9", with sharp, defined features. Her eyes, tilted slightly upward at the corners, were classic doe eyes. Her figure was stunning, curvy and powerful even under the ripped blouse. I couldn't help but snort. Sorry, I'm only looking for a kitten. Chloe blinked, her tone taking on a deliberately innocent quality. I just turned 20. Her just turned 20 line threw me for a loop. Are all kittens this straightforward these days? Is that too old for you, mister? She pouted, a hint of a whimper in her voice. I pulled a business card from my wallet and tucked it into the one pocket on her shirt that was still intact, my movements deliberately playful. It's not easy being my kitten's sweetheart. You have to be obedient, have stamina. I paused, my meaning clear, and besides, you don't exactly look like you're short on cash. But then Chloe suddenly grabbed my wrist. Her palm was cool, and her eyes looked misty, as vulnerable as a rain-soaked puppy. My family kicked me out, mister. I'm broke. She pointed to her head. My mom said I can't come home until I cure my tendency to be blinded by love. I crossed my arms, nodding with amusement. Okay, and how's that going? Still love drunk? She suddenly leaned in close, rubbing her cool cheek against my neck like a small animal seeking comfort. Her voice was a soft purr. Mister, the way you slapped Sarah earlier. It was so hot. I think my love sickness is coming back. I laughed and gently pushed her away. TSK. Serves you right. Have fun living on ramen. She didn't seem offended. She pulled out her phone and scanned the QR code on my digital business card. My name's Chloe, Mr. The atmosphere at the office the next day was strange. My colleagues' glances were a mixture of pity, morbid curiosity, and a barely hidden glee. My assistant tiptoed in. Mr. Evans, Ms. Lynch is waiting for you in the conference room. Victoria Lynch, my so-called fiancée. A headache started to bloom behind my eyes. What did this drama queen want now? I pushed open the door. Victoria was sitting perfectly upright in a designer suit, exuding an air of untouchable wealth. The look she gave me, however, held its usual distance plus a new hint of calculation. She didn't even wait for me to sit down before slapping a resume onto the table. Do me a favor. Hire this person. It was a command, not a request. I picked up the resume, Dylan Foster. Bachelor's degree. The work experience section was a masterpiece of empty corporate jargon. The face in the photo. I frowned. I felt like I'd seen him somewhere before, but I couldn't place it. For director of sales? My frown deepened as I read the intended position. Victoria, our sales director, is on maternity leave. She hasn't quit. I looked up and met her gaze. And this Mr. Foster, he isn't even in the same league as our current director. In my book, a 6-month maternity leave is the same as quitting, Victoria sneered. A woman who's been out of the workplace for half a year is useless. The cruelty of her words was stunning. I shot back with a cold smile. Well, you spend every day in the workplace, Victoria, and I haven't seen Lynch Corp achieving any legendary results lately. God, I hate a tragic hero with no self-awareness. Her face hardened. She leaned in, her voice a low threat. Leo, if you don't hire him, I'm telling your mother about your little kitten. Before she finished, I slammed my hand on the coffee table, sending it crashing over. Hot coffee splashed everywhere. Victoria, my voice was ice. You dare tell my mother? I'll tell your mother about that male model you keep on retainer at the Gilded Cage. The color drained from Victoria's face. She might be the sole heir to the Lynch fortune, but her family was old money, obsessed with reputation. If word got out that she was paying for boy toys, her inheritance would be in jeopardy. She glared at me, her teeth clenched. Leo Evans, just you wait. During the interviews for a new junior sales position that afternoon, I wasn't surprised to see Dylan Foster. Under a barrage of sharp, professional questions from HR, he stammered and contradicted himself before his eyes actually reddened, and he started to quietly sob. I'm sorry. I'm just so stupid. I don't know anything. The HR manager gave me a completely baffled look and mouthed, Sir, we have interns tougher than this. Follow procedure. If he doesn't make the cut, he doesn't make the cut, I said, my face a mask of indifference. But my eyes kept drifting to Dylan's face. That feeling of familiarity was maddening. Where the hell had I seen him? After the interview, Dylan cornered me by the door, grabbing my sleeve. His eyes were red-rimmed, his voice full of wounded accusation. Ms. Lynch said, she said I could get a job at your company. I smoothly removed his hand from my arm. We'll be in touch within 3 business days, I said, my tone clinical. Dylan's face instantly brightened, and he walked away with a cheerful smile. 3 days from now. He wouldn't be getting any offer from me. Time seemed to fast forward. Chloe would text me occasionally, her messages playful and flirtatious, but most of my energy was consumed by the endless fires at my own company. After her failed attempt to place her lover, Victoria seemed to have retreated. But her boy toy, Dylan Foster, was on a rocket ship at Lynch Corp, rising from a junior clerk to director of business development. I heard this new director Foster wasn't doing much actual work. All his energy was focused on his office romance with Victoria. To broadcast their love, Dylan organized sappy, cringeworthy romantic rituals every evening, and the kicker was he was paying for it all by docking it from the Employee Benefits Fund. That was the last straw. The employees at Lynch Corp were in open revolt, and morale had collapsed. By the time I heard the news, a number of Lynch Corp's top talents had already jumped ship to my company. These people came with real skills and a deep-seated hatred for Dylan Foster. They single-handedly boosted my quarterly performance by a huge margin. The day the quarterly report came out, the hard data must have finally shocked Victoria out of her love-drunk stupor. She stormed into my office, her assistant trailing behind her. Leo, her heels clicked against the floor like she was trying to drill holes in it. I leaned back in my chair, my gaze drifting to the man behind her, Dylan, his eyes red as a rabbit's, looking every bit the victim. What do I get? I chuckled softly. Victoria, your top talent voluntarily came here to shine. Isn't that because they couldn't see any light over at your place? Dylan chose that moment to interject, his voice thick with fake tears, his performance utterly convincing. Mr. Evans, Lynch Corp is at a critical moment in choosing its next heir. What you're doing? You're trying to ruin Victoria. With that, he dropped to his knees with a thud, wailing, I know you're doing this because of me. It's my fault Victoria is with me. Come after me. Don't take it out on her. I'm begging you. Victoria immediately rushed to his side, full of concern. Dylan, don't you kneel to him. A cold-blooded person like him isn't worthy. Watching this melodramatic performance of undying love, I just felt sick to my stomach. Victoria, I said, my smile gone, my voice cold. Instead of wasting your time with this soap opera, maybe you should go back and investigate what great deeds your precious Director Foster has been up to at your company. I caught the flicker of guilt in Dylan's eyes. Victoria might be blinded by love, but she hadn't been a CEO for years for nothing. She had some business sense. Dylan had clearly been digging holes for her behind her back. Victoria's expression shifted. With a final huff, she pulled the still sobbing Dylan to his feet and left. Finally, some peace and quiet. Not 2 minutes later, my office door creaked open and Chloe poked her head in like a curious cat. Mister, she purred, slipping inside, her eyes glancing toward the door. Was that Victoria Lynch? Yep, my only fiancée, I said, rubbing my temples. A flicker of surprise crossed Chloe's face. She moved closer, her tone half joking. Mister, you're not actually going to marry her, are you? I gave her the short version of the whole mess, a drunken truth or dare game between our mothers, the absurd childhood engagement pact. As I spoke, Chloe's expression grew more and more serious. So, she looked at me, her gaze holding a hint of something I couldn't quite read. Do you like her, mister? Seeing her so serious for once, I couldn't resist reaching out and pinching her cheek, deliberately teasing her. Of course, I prefer your type. Sweet and good at making a guy feel better. The words were half true, half playful. Chloe blinked and quickly changed the subject, but I saw something else hiding in the depths of her eyes. Victoria, as expected, went back and conducted a thorough, month-long investigation. The results were predictable. Dylan's great deeds were enough to fill a textbook on how to destroy a company from the inside. I heard she had a massive fight with him, but whatever magic spell he had cast on her held. It didn't break up. The next time I saw Victoria was at my company's quarterly success party. She was as radiant as ever in a couture gown, holding a glass of champagne, her presence commanding the room. But this time, her attitude toward me was completely different. Victoria stood up, deliberately humbling herself in front of all my guests. Her tone was full of practiced apology. Due to some past misunderstandings, Mr. Evans and I had a falling out that affected our business partnership. On behalf of Lynch Corp, I'd like to drink 3 glasses as an apology to Mr. Evans. And she did, downing 3 glasses of champagne in quick succession. After that, she began toasting me repeatedly, her words dripping with an intimacy that suggested we were the most devoted couple, as if our previous conflict had never happened. Given the public setting and our sham engagement, I had no choice but to play along. Victoria was a skilled drinker. Before I knew it, I was feeling dizzy, my vision blurring at the edges. Leo's had too much to drink. Victoria's voice cut through the haze, full of unchallengeable concern. I'll take him home to rest. She moved in, supporting my unsteady frame. Everyone there knew our story. No one stopped her. Victoria half-dragged, half-carried me into the back of her car. The door closed, shutting out the noise of the party. She didn't start the car. Instead, she leaned over me, her alcohol-laced breath hot on my face. Her hands started roaming my body as she muttered, almost to herself, "Leo, you have to marry me. Marrying you is the only way my position will be secure. I know I was wrong. From now on, I'll only be good to you." My stomach churned. I tried to push her away. "Victoria, our engagement, it's been over for years." "No." She grabbed my hand, a crazed, desperate look in her eyes. "As long as you marry me." Her words were cut off by a loud bang. The car door was ripped open from the outside. "Victoria, you animal." It was Chloe's furious voice. She appeared like a guardian angel, yanking Victoria off of me. In that moment, a wave of profound relief washed over me. Thank God, she was here. The alcohol finally won, and my world went black. When I woke up, bright sunlight was streaming through a massive floor-to-ceiling window. I was in an incredibly soft, comfortable bed, the master bedroom of my family's sprawling mansion. From downstairs, I could hear the faint sounds of a heated argument. I rubbed my throbbing temples and walked out, looking down from the second-floor railing. Damn, the living room was a war zone. My mother's face was livid as she pointed a finger at Victoria. Standing next to Victoria was the cause of all this, Dylan, looking like a wilting flower on the verge of tears. Victoria's father, my Uncle Lynch, was so furious he had actually slapped his daughter across the face. "You disgraceful thing. You're engaged, and you pull a stunt like this." After getting slapped, Victoria's eyes darted up and saw me. As if grabbing onto a lifeline, she shot back, "Dad, you think he's some kind of saint? He's keeping a woman on the side, too." Swish. Every head in the room snapped toward me. My face went cold. "Victoria, are you really trying to burn everything down?" My mother's sharp gaze landed on me. I dug my nails into my palm, suppressed my anger, and put on an expression even more innocent and wrong than Dylan's. "Victoria, you need evidence to make claims like that. Are you just going to slander me? You say I have another woman. Where's your proof?" We had always had a don't ask, don't tell policy. She had nothing on me. The living room fell silent. Victoria was clearly stumped, her face turning pale. In that tense silence, Dylan, who had been quiet until now, spoke up timidly. I have proof." My heart lurched. I watched as Dylan took out his phone and made a call. 10 minutes later, the front door opened, and a familiar figure walked in. It was Sarah. The moment Sarah entered, she started bowing and scraping to my mother, her face plastered with a sycophantic smile that had none of her former college girl innocence. "Hello, ma'am. I'm Leo's girlfriend." My mother's face turned absolutely thunderous. "Leo," she roared. "Get down here now." I dutifully walked downstairs, my scalp tingling. This whole situation was beyond absurd. "Is she your girlfriend?" my mother demanded, pointing at Sarah. "Ex-girlfriend," I corrected calmly. "We broke up a long time ago." Dylan immediately chimed in, his voice full of tearful indignation. "Ma'am, you have to stand up for Victoria. It was Leo who was cheating first, Victoria. She just made a one-time mistake out of impulse." "Enough," my mother cut him off sharply. Her eyes, filled with disappointment and anger, swept over Victoria and me. "It takes two to tango. The two of you, you're both as bad as each other." Victoria's mother immediately agreed. "Exactly." Then Sarah jumped back in, her voice cracking with emotion as she cried out to me, "Leo, I know you're just mad at me. I don't believe our 3 years together meant nothing. You still have feelings for me, right?" She and Dylan were performing a perfectly synchronized duet. Victoria's posture straightened instantly. She adopted a magnanimous, almost condescending tone as she addressed my mother. "Annie, I don't know how many other women Leo has been seeing behind my back, but I can't forgive him, because I love him, and I believe that if he can forgive me for my one mistake, Her speech made my stomach turn. I cut her off coldly. "Victoria, drop the act. Sarah and I dated for 3 years, but it was all for show. We never even slept together. What about you? How many times have you been to high-end clubs to pick up male models? The top guys at the Gilded Cage? Every one of them knows who you are." At this, Victoria's mother shot up, trembling with rage, and slammed her hand on the table. "Your father and I have lived our entire lives with dignity. How do we raise such a shameless creature?" At the absolute peak of this chaotic, screaming mess, the front door clicked open. Every movement, every shout, froze as if someone had hit pause. Chloe Vance stood in the doorway, holding a thermos, her face a mask of perfect, polite surprise and a touch of confusion. Her eyes scanned the tense tableau in the living room, finally landing on me. Her voice was clear and natural. "Mister, I brought you some coffee to help with your hangover." Dead silence filled the living room. Game over. My heart dropped. This was now a true, five-alarm dumpster fire. Chloe's arrival was like a lit match tossed into a barrel of gasoline. After a moment of dead silence, the living room erupted into an even greater chaos. The instant Dylan saw Chloe, his face went deathly white. His lips trembled as if he'd seen a ghost. His reaction was so extreme that even the enraged Victoria noticed something was wrong. "Dylan?" she asked, her eyes narrowing with suspicion. "What's wrong with you?" Before Dylan could invent an excuse, Chloe's icy gaze had already locked onto him. A smile so cold it could cause frostbite spread across her lips. "Mark? Change your name?" Well, small world. Did you enjoy spending my $50,000? "Mark!" Victoria and I yelled in unison. The name was like a bolt of lightning, shattering the fog in my memory. The freeloader Chloe had by the hair in the parking garage, the pathetic man brawling with Sarah outside the police station. The face behind a mask finally merged with the terrified face in front of me. No wonder he looked so familiar. Victoria looked like she'd been struck by lightning. She whipped her head around to stare at Dylan, her voice cracking. "Mark? Dylan, who the hell are you?" Dylan, or rather Mark, was in a full-blown panic, his mouth opening and closing without a sound. Chloe advanced on him, her voice low but every word a dagger. "He's Mark Chun, the online scammer who conned me out of 50 grand using a fake identity. Ms. Lynch, your taste in men is truly one of a kind." The living room exploded. The information overload was too much. My mother and Victoria's mother stood with their mouths agape. Uncle Lynch looked like he was about to have a stroke. Only me, watching this utterly ridiculous scene unfold, couldn't help but let out a low laugh. Not even the most hackneyed soap opera writer could come up with this stuff. Chloe immediately turned to me. Her helpless puppy looked back in full force. "Mister, are you disgusted with me now?" I pushed away her attempt to lean on me, my tone dripping with theatrical mockery. "Being love-drunk is an illness, sweetheart. It needs to be cured. Time to go live on ramen." Chloe just blinked, her gaze stubborn. "I'm only love-drunk for you, mister." Mark Dylan finally snapped out of his terror. Grasping at straws, he scrambled toward the nearest person, Uncle Lynch, and started wailing. "Mr. Lynch, you have to help me. Victoria and I are truly in love. It's them. They conspired to frame me." He pointed a shaking finger at Chloe and me, a master of twisting the truth. Victoria's mother could no longer contain her fury. She strode forward and delivered a crisp, resounding slap across Mark's face. "Get out! All of you get out!" she screamed, pointing at the door, her whole body shaking. But Mark was Victoria's true love. Despite her shock and anger, she still instinctively moved to shield him. Seeing this, her mother's rage boiled over. "Get out! You too! You have utterly disgraced this family." Victoria's face was ashen. She pulled the still sobbing Mark with her, and they slunk out the door like a pair of beaten dogs. Seeing her chance, Sarah quietly slipped away as well. The farce was finally over, ending in the ugliest way imaginable. Only the sound of heavy breathing remained in the living room. My father, who had been watching the whole show while eating sunflower seeds, finally spoke, breaking the silence. "Well, Richard," he said, looking at the pale-faced Uncle Lynch and his furious wife, "about this childhood engagement pact of ours. What do we do now?" Victoria's mother took a deep breath. She looked at me with a complex expression of guilt and resolve. "I've watched Leo grow up. He's like a son to me." She paused, her tone firm and final. "That girl, Victoria, she doesn't deserve him. The engagement is off." My eyes lit up. It's off. The chains that had weighed me down for years suddenly felt loose. Just as the words were spoken, Chloe, who had been standing beside me, wrapped her arm tightly around mine. She lifted her delicate, stubborn face to Victoria's mother, her voice clear and strong. "Auntie, if you don't mind," she said, her gaze shifting to me, her beautiful eyes sparkling with a strange light. "Could you swap her out for me?" Her tone was more serious than I had ever heard it. I froze, my first instinct to refuse. How could a relationship built on such calculation and deceit possibly lead to marriage? But then my eyes fell on the still fading, ugly scar on her arm, the one she got protecting me in the garage, and the refusal died in my throat. My mother and Victoria's mother exchanged a look, and then, impossibly, they both nodded. "Done," Victoria's mother declared. "It's settled. We'll swap her for Chloe. It's about time the Lynch heir changed anyway." And just like that, my absurd engagement to Victoria was terminated and transferred to Chloe. The Lynches moved with lightning speed, officially changing the heir to Chloe. It turned out she was the daughter of Mr. Lynch's younger brother, who had also been known for being love-drunk and had let his daughter take her mother's surname. As for Victoria, she was formally disowned by her furious family. She and her true love, Mark, were now truly left to fend for themselves. Victoria, petty and vengeful, directed all the volcanic anger from losing her inheritance onto Mark. A few days later, I got a call from the police. The thug who had stabbed Chloe and then kept silent had finally talked. He named his employers, Mark Chun and Sarah Reed. At the station, Sarah was a mess of tears and snot, confessing everything. After I dumped her, she couldn't let it go and had been lurking around my office, hoping for a reconciliation. One day, she spotted Mark, now living as Dylan Foster, with Victoria. To keep Sarah quiet, Mark had been skimming money from Victoria to give to her. When Mark learned that Chloe was my new girlfriend and had indirectly caused his downfall, his resentment exploded. He and Sarah conspired to hire someone to teach me a lesson, hoping to get me out of the picture so Sarah could get back with me. To maintain his deniability, Mark had Sarah find a guy, but the thug stabbed the wrong person in the dark garage, thinking Chloe was my new girlfriend, and the whole plan unraveled. When I went to the station to give my statement, I saw Chloe in the hallway. She was standing on the other side of a one-way mirror, watching Mark in the interrogation room. Her expression was as cold as ice. "Do you really think you could have gotten a single penny from me if I hadn't let you?" Chloe's voice, piped through the monitoring equipment, came through crystal clear. In the interrogation room, Mark's head snapped up. You didn't do it because you loved me?" "Of course not." Chloe laughed softly, a chilling, triumphant sound. "But if I hadn't dangled that 50 grand as bait, how would you have believed that I just happened to have a file on Victoria's preference for innocent, pure-looking men? How would you have believed I could accidentally get my hands on Leo Evans's license plate number?" Mark stared for a few seconds, then recoiled as if bitten by a snake. He lunged at the glass, screaming in my side of the mirror, his face twisted in a mask of rage. "Leo, did you hear that? It was her from the beginning. She used me. She told me what Victoria liked. She gave me your license plate. She orchestrated everything. She did it all to take down your fiancé, so she could take her place. You're just like me. We were both just pawns in her game. She doesn't love you." Chloe spun around, her face contorted with a fury I had never seen before. "You shut your mouth." But it was too late. Every one of Mark's venomous words was a poison needle, stabbing deep into my heart. I turned and walked out of the police station without looking back. I heard hurried footsteps behind me. "Mister, let me explain," Chloe cried, trying to grab my hand. I shook her off violently, my eyes fixed straight ahead, my voice as cold as a Siberian wind. "Don't touch me." Once planted, the seed of doubt grew into a towering tree in an instant. I went to Victoria's mother, casually asking about Chloe being kicked out of her home. "Oh, that girl," she said, trimming her roses nonchalantly. "She gave that scammer tens of thousands of dollars. We were furious soys. We threw her out, but we never cut off her allowance. We just wanted to teach her a lesson." She put down her shears and gave me a long, meaningful look. "That girl has been clever since she was a child. She majored in psychology in college. Her mind is sharper than a tack. Leo, you be wise to keep your guard up." Her words were like a bucket of ice water, extinguishing the last flicker of hope in my heart. I maintained a polite smile, but inside, I felt a deep, chilling cold. After that, Chloe tried to reach me many times. Calls, texts, waiting for me outside my office. I ignored them all. Then, one stormy night, She showed up at my apartment, holding a cake from my favorite bakery, drenched to the bone. She had been waiting there for a day and a night. Seeing her shivering outside my door, looking like a drowned rat, but with the same stubborn look in her eyes, my heart finally softened. I opened the door. "Get in," I said coldly. I got the hairdryer and handed it to her in silence. "You got what you wanted," I said, my tone frigid. "What are you still doing here?" Chloe didn't take the hairdryer. Instead, she stepped closer, tilting her head up to look at me. Rainwater dripped from the ends of her hair, and her eyes were filled with a shattered, wounded look, like an abandoned puppy. "Mister, my feelings for you are real. From the moment I saw you slap Sarah in that garage, I fell for you." She continued, her voice trembling. "My mom always saw you as my future brother-in-law. If I didn't get Victoria out of the way, I would never have had a chance to be with you. Enough." I cut her off roughly, my mind a chaotic mess. The deception was real, but so was the image of her lunging at the thug in the garage, her pale face in the hospital bed, and her soaked, defiant form right now. I ran a hand through my hair in frustration. "Dry your hair. You'll catch a cold." The words were harsh, but they betrayed a sliver of concern I couldn't hide. Sensing this crack in my armor, Chloe immediately switched back to her familiar, dependent persona, hugging my arm and shaking it gently. "I want you to do it, mister." My heart clenched. In the end, I took the hairdryer and resignedly began to dry her long, wet hair. As the warm air blew through the strands, she rested quietly against my legs, her eyes closed. Her long lashes cast soft shadows on her cheeks, her profile as delicate as porcelain. "Mister," she said suddenly, opening her eyes. They held a careful, hopeful glimmer. "Let's get married." My hand froze. The hum of the hairdryer suddenly seemed deafeningly loud in the quiet room. Outside, the rain continued to fall. The next morning, I drove Chloe back to campus as usual. At the main gate, she leaned over and planted a soft kiss on my cheek. "See you tonight, mister." "Yeah, see you tonight," I replied, watching her walk through the gates. But when I turned the car around, I didn't head back to the office or my apartment. I drove home. In the quiet of the mansion, I calmly packed a suitcase, took out my passport, and called my dad. "Dad, I think I'm going to spend a few years at the London office." There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a knowing sigh. "All right, maybe that's for the best. Clear your head. The position will be here when you get back." After hanging up, I called a car and went straight to the airport. It was only when the plane was high above the clouds that I took out my phone and switched off airplane mode. Instantly, a flood of messages and missed call notifications from Chloe poured in. Her call came through immediately, her voice filled with a desperate panic I'd never heard before. "Mister, where did you go? When are you coming back?" Hearing the tremor in her voice, a pang of sadness hit me. I took a deep breath, deciding to finally be clear. "Chloe," I said, using her real name, my voice low and tired. "I'm not someone who can tolerate lies. You deceived me. That's a fact." The other end of the line was crushingly silent. But I paused, looking out at the endless sea of clouds. "I have feelings for you. That's also a fact. I don't know how to be with someone who tricked me, but I also don't know how to deny what I feel for you." My voice was lost and conflicted. "So, I need to get away for a while. I need to be alone and figure this all out. Do you understand?" A long time passed, so long I thought the call had dropped. Finally, her voice came through, thick with emotion but surprisingly clear. "Okay, I'll wait for you." I was gone for 3 years. Life abroad was busy, full. I deliberately shut out all news from home and forced myself not to think about the calculating girl with the eyes of a frightened deer. Until Christmas of the 3rd year, when an unsigned international package arrived. I unwrapped the layers of protection to find a carefully framed oil painting. The paint was long dry, the colors warm and bright. A field of golden canola flowers stretching to the horizon. A young girl in a white dress, her back to the viewer, stood on a dirt path with her arms outstretched, facing the rising sun. The light bathed her in a golden glow, radiating life and pure joy. The style was a bit amateurish, but deeply sincere. This painting, I froze. A long-forgotten memory came rushing back. I was 12, on summer vacation with my parents in the countryside. The Lynch family and Chloe's family were there too. One stuffy night, I got up and saw a young Victoria sneakily leading an even smaller girl toward the hills behind the farmhouses. Curious, I followed them. Victoria led the little girl deep into a rapeseed field, far from any houses. She tricked her into a game of hide-and-seek, telling her to close her eyes and count to 100. The little girl obeyed, her small voice counting 1, 2, 3, echoing in the silent night. Victoria used the chance to turn and run, not looking back. The little girl counted to 100 and opened her eyes to find herself surrounded by an endless, dark sea of swaying flowers. She first called out softly, "Sister, sister," her voice sounding helpless in the vast emptiness. When no one answered, she seemed to understand. She stopped calling and just hugged her knees, her small body trembling in the moonlight like an abandoned kitten. I walked toward her, using the faint light from my clunky, old cell phone screen. The light fell on her face, a porcelain doll's face with big, round eyes as bright as obsidian. Tears clung to her long lashes as she blinked up at me, terrified. Are you a ghost?" she stammered through a sob. A playful impulse took over. I made a scary face. "Yep, and I'm here to get you." The little girl let out a wail. I chuckled, pulling her up from the dirt path. All right, you scaredy cat. The ghost will take you home." I took her small, cold hand in mine, and we started walking back, stumbling along the path. It was pitch black, with only the weak light from my phone and a few stars overhead. She held my hand tightly. After what felt like forever, the eastern sky began to lighten. When the first golden rays of sun finally broke over the horizon, warming our faces, we both breathed a sigh of relief. As we reached the edge of the village, the little girl suddenly stopped. She bent down and carefully picked a single, dew-kissed canola flower. She stood on her tiptoes and held it out to me, her small face breaking into a smile brighter than the sunrise. "For you, mister," she said shyly. I never saw that little girl again after that summer. I only remember her last name was Vance, and she was Victoria's cousin. And now, looking at the back of the girl in the painting, the memory of that tear-streaked, beautiful little face finally merged with Chloe's. So, the little girl whose hand I held in the dark, who gave me a flower in the morning sun, it had been her all along. Fate had planted a seed all those years ago. My fingers gently traced the dried oil paint on the canvas. The bright colors seemed to hold the warmth of the sun, reaching across time and space to melt the last bit of ice around my heart. The following spring, I boarded a flight home. The plane landed in the early morning, a light mist still hanging in the air. As I walked through the arrival's gate, pulling my suitcase, I saw her immediately. Chloe was standing in the crowd, dressed in a simple white shirt and jeans, looking tall and slender. She was holding a large bouquet of sunflowers, their golden faces like a cluster of tiny suns. 3 years had stripped away the last of her girlishness, replacing it with a quiet maturity, but her signature doe eyes were as clear and bright as ever. She saw me at the same moment, and a brilliant, unrestrained smile broke across her face, as bright and dazzling as sunlight breaking through clouds. She hurried toward me and pushed the bouquet into my arms, her voice bright with a mixture of nervous energy and immense joy. "Welcome home, mister." I took the heavy bouquet, feeling its warmth. My eyes landed on her face, the face that had once inspired such a storm of love, hate, and confusion. Now, all I felt was a sense of peace, of things finally settling into place. On the drive, she chattered away like an excited bird, trying to fill the 3-year gap, complaining about the Chicago weather, mocking her boring classes, sharing funny stories about taking over the family business. Her topics jumped around, a forced cheerfulness designed to mask her anxiety and her careful, probing glances. She kept looking at me, as if to confirm I was really there. We drove aimlessly through familiar streets. The early spring wind was cool, but held a promise of warmth. The trees lining the roads were sprouting new green buds. Sunlight danced across her focused profile through the car window. Neither of us mentioned the past. Not the deception, not the scheming, not the painting that had changed everything. It was as if the 3 years of separation and turmoil had just been a long dream. Until the car turned a familiar corner, and the window of an old-fashioned matchmaking agency came into view. Under the faded sign that read, Everlasting Love Matchmakers, the window was plastered with dating profiles. An idea sparked in my mind. I hit the brakes. "We're here," I said. Chloe looked startled. She glanced at the matchmaking agency, then back at me, her eyes wide with confusion and a flicker of disbelieving hope. "Here?" she asked softly, her fingers unconsciously tightening on her seatbelt. I unbuckled my own seatbelt and turned to face her, looking calmly and seriously into her beautiful eyes. 3 years, thousands of miles, all the lies and schemes, all the conflict and longing, all the doubt and forgiveness. It all settled in that one deep look. "Yeah," I said, a real, relaxed smile finally reaching my lips. I held out my hand to her. "Let's go in. Ms. Vance, would you be interested in filling out a form with me?" The morning light was perfect, streaming through the window and enveloping us in its gentle glow. She stared at my outstretched hand, and her eyes began to light up brighter and brighter, until they seemed to hold all the stars of spring. She didn't say a word. She just reached out and, without a moment's hesitation, placed her hand firmly in mine.